Alright gang, welcome back to Gen X Horror. We talk about all things 70s and 80s horror and nostalgia. Remember when your parents thought you were safely tucked in bed, but you were actually sneaking downstairs to watch that forbidden VHS tape your older cousin left behind, when the only thing scarier than the movie itself was getting caught watching it? Back when MTV was still playing music videos and we were all learning how to moonwalk, there was a whole underground world of horror lurking in the dusty corners of mom and pop video stores. Films with lurid cover art and glorious taglines, and we were in heaven. So grab your new Coke and your Pop Rocks, because we're taking a chronological ride through some absolutely fringe films that'll make you question how this passed for cinema and ever made it into our hands. Alright gang, let's get into it.
Horrific nightmare is about to become a reality. Inseminoid, a far from human birth.
You know, honestly, they didn't really have portable video cameras in 1973 that you could just bring into the delivery room, but likely that's what they would have said at my own birth. I turned out okay, though, more or less. Give this kid a chance. Well, picture this. You're at your buddy's house, it's 2 a.m., and someone just popped in a tape with the most aggressively weird title you've ever seen. Welcome to 1981's Inseminoid, the British space horror that makes Alien look like a Disney movie at best. When a geological expedition on a frozen planet goes catastrophically wrong, crew member Sandy gets impregnated by an alien entity that turns her into a superhuman killing machine with an insatiable appetite for violence and, weirdly enough, raw meat. And that just might be the literal new definition of catastrophically wrong. The plot basically follows Sandy's rampage through the claustrophobic base as her alien twins gestate at an alarming rate, while her increasingly terrified crewmates realize their biggest mistake was probably leaving Earth in the first place. Let's talk about the reviews, man. We got a 10 out of 10 here. It says Judy Geeson is a very good... I want to say Gleason so bad. Why is her last name Geeson? Is it Geeson? Maybe it's Geeson. This is the first ever. Judy is very good as the possessed woman who keeps switching emotions and personalities. She's a little bit too hysterical, but also very, very dangerous when thwarted. The alien was not entirely convincing. I don't know if that's the part keying on. Now for a 1 out of 10. Everyone involved should be ashamed. Dang. I actually suffered through this entire shovelful. Who says that? I actually suffered through this entire shovelful of cinematic tripe. The participants must have been desperate for money, but even that cannot excuse the miserable demonstration of their pitiful efforts and the eternal embarrassment that must attach to them. Man, that is a deep... that's a 1, right? You want a 1 out of 10, there it is. This pitiful embarrassment was scripted in 4 days. It was shot in 4 weeks for around $2 million and filmed partially in the Chislehurst Caves in Kent to avoid special effects costs of an all-space station set. This gloriously bonkers flick is what happens when you take the crew stuck with a monster formula from Alien, remove all the artistic restraint, and add a hefty dose of exploitation cinema sensibility. Roger Corman, yes, served as executive producer, which should tell you everything you need to know. The practical effects are delightfully gooey, the set design screams the bulk of the budget went to fake blood and alien costumes, and Sandy's alien-controlled rampage includes some genuinely disturbing moments that probably traumatized more than a few unsuspecting kids who thought they were getting another Star Wars-type adventure, complete with a birth scene that'll make you grateful your health class stuck to diagrams and, awkward banana demonstrations.
You to make love to me before I die.
You mustn't speak like that. Death has no power to separate us.
Look, I'm not saying I'm against it, but how close are you to death would be my first thought. But spoiler alert, she was incredibly close to death. If Inseminoid was the weird space nightmare you accidentally rented, Beyond the Darkness was the Italian shocker that made you wonder if your local video store owners were in a secret sex death cult. For sure. This Joe D'Amato sleazefest follows Frank, a taxidermist, so obsessed with his dead girlfriend Anna that he literally digs her up and preserves her body in his home, which, and I cannot stress this enough, is somehow not even the most disturbing thing that happens in this movie. What follows is 94 minutes of Frank murdering anyone who gets too close to discovering his secret with the help of his scheming housekeeper / nanny / current wet nurse, Iris. All while he continues his increasingly deranged attempts to keep Anna alive, symbolically, one would assume, through taxidermy, including a scene that features him literally eating her organs. And man, that is love, because I'm pretty sure that was her heart. Shot on location in Italy with practical effects by Rosario Prestipino that are incredibly impressive when they're not making you want to lose your lunch. This nasty little flick was actually banned as a video nasty in the UK during the great moral panic of the 1980s, as so many amazing movies were. The same era when Tipper Gore was slapping parental advisory stickers on Prince albums, but if there was ever a film that I was like, nah, they got it right, it was likely this one. Let's look at the reviews. 10 out of 10. Whatever your stance is on sleazy Italian horror films from the 70s and 80s, it can't be denied by anyone that this film is some kind of minor masterpiece. Here's a film that works on every level, not just the gore level that a lot of these movies work on, and is actually quite tasteful in its depiction of corpse loving. That got weird real quick. Now for a 2 out of 10, there were no 1 out of 10s, which it's encouraging. An expressionless protagonist, a seemingly villainous housekeeper, loads of corpses, a pointless story, and a jerky screenplay all but sums up this gore fest. Sorry, trash fest. Oh, it's a cute play on words. The film's unflinching approach to gore and transgressive content makes it feel less like horror entertainment and more like you've stumbled onto something genuinely forbidden. Complete with a bathtub scene that'll make you rethink every bubble bath you've ever taken. And that bathtub scene unfortunately marked that actress's only nude scene and last film she'd appear in, which is horrible because she was thicker than a Snicker. Anyway.
You next.
Jane Doe is a victim of amnesia.
I can't remember my past. That doesn't make me crazy.
Now, I love that amnesia basically just made her forget to wear pants and a shirt that fits. And I mean, love that. Flash forward to 1989, and just when you thought horror had gotten slicker and more mainstream with a Nightmare on Elm Street sequels dominating the box office, along comes The Dead Pit to remind you that good old-fashioned schlock was still alive and rotting. This supernatural asylum horror opens with one of the most metal cold opens ever. A mad doctor conducting twisted experiments in an institution gets murdered by his colleagues and buried in the basement, only to be resurrected 20 years later when an earthquake cracks open his tomb because apparently nature really wanted this guy to continue his work. It must go on. Our protagonist, Jane Doe, played by Cheryl Lawson, wakes up in the same asylum with amnesia, immediately getting caught up in a nightmare where the resurrected Dr. Ramsey is now creating an army of the undead from his former patients, turning the mental hospital into an all-you-can-eat buffet for zombies with serious boundary issues. The recreational room where Jane Doe meets Chris is the exact same location Green Day shot their music video for Basket Case, and that tracks. Director Brett Leonard, who would go on to direct The Lawnmower Man, shot this for under $300,000, and it was written in about 3 weeks total. Lead actress Cheryl Lawson explained why her character spends a portion of the movie in just a tiny tank top and bikini panties. Apparently, Lawson felt a normal-size hospital gown made her look large, so she cut part of it off. The more her outfit was washed, the more the gown shrank and the underwear became tighter. And while that seems far-fetched, I'll admit, I pulled all of the scenes involving that travesty and edited the rest of the scenes around those. You're welcome. 10 out of 10 reviews. You might have the feeling that acting is not amazing, but you will not think it further. You might say the film is beyond horror. I would say terror is the right word. This definitely is in my top 20 favorite horror films ever. Give it a shot. All right, it's a fair review. 1 out of 10. This movie deserves a negative 10 score. Damn! Horrible acting, zero budget effects, and just plain stupid. I suspect the others that gave it rave reviews must have been people that were involved in making this piece of trash movie. Or maybe they just appreciated Cheryl Lawson in panties and a tank top. A 1? Come on. The VHS cover featured those glow-in-the-dark holographic eyes that you could press a button and have them light up, and that absolutely guaranteed every kid would beg their parents to rent it. Parents who definitely should have checked the R rating for this one. And the film delivers exactly what that lurid cover promises. Rotting corpses, exploding heads, gratuitous nudity, and the kind of nightmare logic that only works when you're watching it at 3 a.m. on a school night. complete with a climax that involves holy water, pit zombies, and a very confused final girl who probably should have just stayed unconscious.
A game where playing around implies much more than just 18 holes.
I think I like your shaft better.
And a game where the term sudden death has very recently taken on a whole new meaning.
What you'll find is even though kids were sucked into a wood chipper with wheels, it doesn't really affect the twosome lining up for the next tea time. Like, at all. Like, they play through the carnage for the whole movie. It's beautiful. Right on the dead pit's heels came Blades, and if you thought a killer lawnmower movie was too stupid to exist, well, congratulations. You were probably smarter than most of us. I was so jazzed to have this one suggested from a prior video because I recently just watched Wacko, and while nothing like anything I've ever enjoyed, it also featured a killer lawnmower. It was just less sentient. This Z-grade cinema is like Jaws and Caddyshack all rolled up into one beautiful movie, and they actually had the audacity to play it completely straight. The plot follows a country club groundskeeper and a local pro golfer teaming up to stop a murderous riding mower that's decapitating golfers with prejudice, complete with a police detective who treats the investigation with the same gravitas as tracking down Hannibal Lecter, all while the body count rises. Matt Damon makes an uncredited appearance in the golf club town hall scene as a background extra, but I couldn't pick him out. Director Thomas R. Rondinella clearly watched Jaws about 47 times and thought, man, all I have is $20K in this old commercial mower sitting around, resulting in a shot-for-shot homage that replaces beach swimmers with waspy golf enthusiasts and adds absolutely zero self-awareness about how ridiculous its premise is, which is exactly why it works so damn good. I couldn't find any 10 out of 10 reviews. I got an 8 out of 10 for you, though. We should pay more attention to the sports we surround ourselves with. Sometimes someone can get into a sport and get so obsessed that they will overdo it to the point of a mental breakdown. I really feel that this movie made me relapse into alcoholism. Great film. There's a lot to unpack there. Now we got a 1 out of 10. I'm sure when the screenwriter was writing this, he was really high on something. At that point, he probably thought it was hilarious. Let me correct him. It wasn't and isn't. I have a really broad sense of humor, some might say disturbing, and found nothing about this funny. It's a damn shame because it was great. There's even a scene where they try to hunt the killer mower at night, complete with suspenseful music and dramatic camera angles focused on machinery that looks like it should be cutting suburban lawns on a Saturday afternoon. The special effects are gloriously cheap. Decapitating mannequin heads galore, the legs getting chewed up, man, chef's kiss. The acting oscillates between high school drama club and genuinely trying their best. And the whole thing feels like the kind of movie that could only exist in that magical late 80s window when video stores were desperate for content and would greenlight literally anything with a hook, making Blades the perfect double feature companion to The Dead Pit if you wanted your sleepover guests to question your taste in entertainment forever, that is.
Is there anyone there?
Debbie.
Why don't you leave me alone, will you? I'm not interested. I don't want to hear it. Creep.
This is exactly what dating was like in the late 80s and early 90s for me. And honestly, you gotta wear them down sometimes. 1981's Eyes of a Stranger is a film that proves not every VHS horror discovery was trashy exploitation, unfortunately. Some were actually pretty damn effective thrillers that just got lumped in with the rest of the video nasty crowd. This tight stalker thriller stars Lauren Toos, the cruise director Julie from The Love Boat. What was it? Julie? I was going to say Julie Bowen, but that's another actress. Either way, this is a very serious departure from her wholesome TV persona as a Miami television reporter who becomes convinced that her creepy neighbor is the serial killer terrorizing the city, leading to a cat and mouse game that culminates with him targeting her younger, blind, and mute sister in a genuinely suspenseful home invasion climax. What sets Eyes of a Stranger apart from the sleaze we've been celebrating is director Ken Wiederhorn's, who also made Shockwaves and The Return of the Living Dead Part 2, surprisingly stylish approach. This looks and feels like a real movie with legitimate tension, strong performances, and a proto-slasher structure that predates the glut of maniac stalker films that would flood video stores throughout the rest of the decade. It probably feels different because it was originally conceived and shot as a more straightforward thriller. Partway through production, it was decided to embrace the then current slasher boom and introduce more gore and a lot more violence. Let's talk about the reviews. 10 out of 10. This is a crazy test. While Debbie Ormsley loses her composure with the realization that the killer is inside the house with her, the stocking-clad intruder right crosses her, and Debbie Ormsley, strips nude for her killer. Not a bad body, Miss Ormsley, Debbie Ormsley. Not bad indeed. I'd buy that for $1. Like, literally, that was the review, and it was a lot longer, but someone sat there and typed that, and oh God, I hope you're not out there. Now a 1 out of 10. I was done after the news anchor turned amateur sleuth convinced herself that her neighbor was the killer. She was so convinced she connected him to rape and murder with the most tenuous of proof. When she was bold enough and stupid enough to break into his apartment and then call him is when I was bold enough to turn it off. I have better things to do. And to be fair to the movie, she was onto something, right? He was the killer. I can only assume it was Stanley himself that wrote this 1 out of 10. Nice try, serial killer. Nice try, I see you. The film also features a young Jennifer Jason Leigh in one of her first roles as the vulnerable sister, delivering a powerful performance that hints at the incredible career she'd go on to have. Even though she's stuck playing a character whose disabilities are used primarily for suspense mechanics in a way that likely might not fly today. Released in the thick of the slasher boom, Eyes of a Stranger got unfairly dismissed as just another exploitation film riding the wave of 1980s horror. But it's actually a well-crafted thriller that understands the difference between tension and gore. Though it does have enough of the latter to satisfy anyone who rented it expecting typical early 80s splatter, proving you could occasionally find a genuinely good movie hiding in that horror section between the Faces of Death compilations and the Italian cannibal movies that should have stayed in Italy.
Look into the eyes of a stranger.
These bangers from the VHS era proved our generation had impeccable taste in questionable entertainment. From space pregnancy nightmares to taxidermy romance to killer lawn equipment, these are the films that bonded us through shared trauma and made us who we are today, for better or for worse. What other forgotten flicks from the video store days deserve this spotlight? We're talking those titles with the baller cover art that you walk past 100 times before finally taking the plunge. Drop your memories, your trauma, and your rental horror stories in the comments below so we can share them. Thanks for watching all. I love you. Stay cool.